So hi guys, this is Sanad
Hi.
and this is Shubham. क्या हुआ बे? Hey,
Because we can keep it going, bro, if you want.
I think we can keep it going and Shiv can take the best moments out of it.
उसके लिए बड़ा भारी तो नहीं हो जाएगा.
देख लेंगे यार. Email कर देंगे.
Let's start करते हैं.
So hi guys, I'm Sanad and
Hi guys, I'm Shubham
so I work at Microsoft Research Bangalore.
and I work at Deloitte Consulting.
So welcome to Boring Talks, and in this particular episode I think we are going to talk about a lot of important things that you as engineering students from your college that you need to take care of, things like profile building
And what industry is beyond college campus and campus recruitments.
and how to make the most of your 4 years in college. Then
And what skills should you pursue, which is more important, management or technology, all those discussions we are going forward with this video, and we hope that you like it, and for anyone who's listening to it, hope it helps.
so thanks a lot Shiv for calling us. Let's start with the video. See you soon.
Hope you enjoy.
Thank you.
Alright, hi guys, welcome back to Boring Talks. You're listening in with me Shiva on the WBS channel. So we've done a variety of episodes on twins. We had a musical episode with Aparna, but this is one topic which actually this is not my topic. This is Shubham's topic. So the story goes back where I wanted to get Shubham for soft skills and I wanted to get Sanad for data science, but then Shubham's like, you know what, we're both roommates, let's do one episode together which is on resume building. I think these guys are very passionate about resumes and all these things because Shubham is working in Deloitte and he's toured abroad in the US. Sanad's gone to South Africa, chilled with the lions there. So I think these guys are more than qualified to talk about this topic. And this is something I'm also very passionate about. I think that there is more to life than just academics, and there is more to life than just mugging up and rattamaru and all that. So my first question would be to Shubham. So Shubham, what do you think? Since you worked in Deloitte for a few years, what do you think the ideal resume should look like?
An ideal resume. That's a tough one. So basically, first thing first, thank you for inviting us to your podcast show.
Pleasure, no problem. Yes.
And second of all, we are passionate about a lot of things, and resume building, yes, we can say, but we do not look at it like this is going to be one deciding factor. So if it comes to, the question being, what does an ideal resume looks like? It changes from person to person. You cannot just, fix it and say this is how it should be. But of course, the resume should tell a gist of the story you want to express in the interview. Okay, so I've seen resumes like going pages and pages, but when it comes to people to express of what they need to, how should they be selling themselves, they have no words. Because they have never, looked at their resume themselves. Okay, how would they talk about this particular point? So while you're building it, while you're building a resume, the first thought should always be coming, okay, when it comes to the question about how should I justify this in my resume, what would I be saying? So if this particular question comes first, before writing anything in a resume, I think the authenticity of your resume is going to come out better than just mere words. You get me there?
Yeah.
So that's where you should start on. So there are different ways to present an ideal resume. Those are just technicalities of how the graphic should be, which section should come first, which section should come later. I think Sanad has, built a lot many resumes than I have or anyone I had known in the campus itself. So I think he can give you a more better perspective when it comes to technicalities. But the gist of it, even when I built my one single page resume, I didn't write a lot of things, but just 2-3 things where I knew that if the interviewer is going to ask me questions there, it is my zone. I should have done something there. Even adding certificates, it should create value for me. I should have done actually something and not just like certificate for participation, certificate for completion, and all that. I mean, even if you're adding to that, just justify what you do there on. So these are the things which I have in my mind when I'm building even a single page resume. And I think I'll ask Sanad to add more to that idea.
Okay.
Yeah. So I agree with the point that Shubham mentioned, which is basically you have to ask yourself what story you want to tell when you are trying to write a resume, because at the end of the day, as you know, different kind of employers or different kind of applications require different kind of resume. So if you're making a resume, for example, for a graduate application, you want to do a MS or MBA, that will be very different from having a resume if you want to get a job in an industry. At the same time, like I was fortunate enough to have an experience of working on different startups and even working on an academic institution. So one thing that I always used to do was my resume used to change a bit. It used to be customized for each kind of application that I'm putting in, because as Shubham said, when the recruiter or the person who's going to hire you or take your interview, you have to understand what kind of psyche they have, what kind of qualities they're looking for in a candidate.
Right.
And exactly. And all of us have done a couple of things in 4 years of college. We have built a couple of skills, but prioritizing those skills in the right order in the resume matters a lot. For example, if you're trying to, just to give some specific examples, suppose you're applying for a job online. Suppose it's a startup. So you would want the first page of the resume to have the most technical details about you, your experience, your projects. And even in that first page, you want the first 70% of the resume to convey like 95% of your story. All the cool projects that you have worked on, all the great internships that you have done, all the open source projects you have made contributions to. Because when they are going through your resume online, they're getting like thousands and thousands of resumes for each position. For example, I think when I was selected in Hackerrank, they told us that our resume was shortlisted among like maybe 1,200 people. So they selected 6 people out of 1,200 people based on the resume itself. And when the recruiter has that kind of workload, they have to go through those number of resumes. They have to actually be very ruthless about the kind of people they are checking in. And sometimes, for example, MNCs, they use these softwares to shortlist resumes. So these softwares actually look for keywords in your resume. So suppose if you have done certain projects or you have organized an event, you would ideally want to write certain keywords about that event. For example, it was a state level hackathon related to entrepreneurship, or whether for this project you used React.js. So you have to provide as many keywords as you can in the resume, because a lot of times these things are what stand like a barrier between you getting shortlisted, because most of the time it's not you having enough experience or skills, but it's about you not being able to present them the right way.
Okay.
That's right.
But I want to play the devil's advocate here. So both of you, you have been NISB core members. You've seen a lot of students coming into the branch, coming into the core group and all. So like I said, there are 2 types of students. One who are actually interested in technology and people. The other who say ki mere ko bas certificate chahiye, right? Now, I want to come to the question of grading a person by just one piece of paper. Like Shubham mentioned, resume, 1-page resume. I mean, that's the maximum that people will look at. Sanad, you mentioned that Hackerrank shortlisted you based on your resume. So basically, a resume is just a piece of paper. A mark is just a number. A CGPA is just a grade or something, but it defines the entire person. So is it correct to shortlist a person based on the resume? Shouldn't it be correct to have, video interviews and get to know the person a bit better?
So I'll take this.
Yeah.
So actually, that's a very right question to ask, and that's what I've personally seen the industry realizing over the few years. So these hiring companies like Hackerrank and Hackerrank and there are a couple of other hiring companies. So nowadays, especially for tech role, what they're doing is they're limiting the dependence on the resume, but more of a video call kind of interview where the person will code in front of the interview, so you can see the candidate using video and audio. It's like a normal call conferencing.
Okay.
At the same time, whatever code he is writing in real time, you can see the way he is approaching the problem. You can see how many silly mistakes he does, what kind of programming language or algorithms or data structures he is comfortable with.
Yeah.
So they are doing these kind of things, and I think there is this startup, Skillenza or Venture Beats. I think it's Skillenza. So what Skillenza does is they organize online hackathons to shortlist people for roles. So they are like, even testing someone for a half an hour competitive programming challenge is not enough. We want to give them a proper problem statement, and we want to see how much how capable they are in terms of solving that problem technically, thinking about the corner cases, expanding the basic problem statement that they have been given.
Yeah.
So I think industry has realized this thing, that you cannot judge a book by its cover. So just a single page resume. Yeah. And I think even Deloitte had group discussions and during the recruitment process, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
But we went through a screening test of aptitude, so not a lot of resumes for them to consider as much as it is in a situation when it goes off campus.
Okay.
Where they could be third-party vendors like Skillenza or anybody else as such, where they do the screening.
Okay.
So as much as what Sanad says, and I think that last point pretty much sums it up, you cannot judge a book by its cover. It's just that it can help you put a foot in the door, and the rest of the story goes, how much of the push was it? Like how much can you express of what is written on that resume? And also, Sanad says it right, that I've heard many of interview experiences for tech posts going like live coding while the interview is on. It's just not on a simple paper as it goes in our college campuses. It goes on live screens where there is going to be compilation and there is going to be explanation for why that error occurred. And all this is what a real world of interviews look like. So if you're gonna prepare for, the next job which you love, these are the perspectives which you should totally have in mind. Resume, yes, good, have it with all the technicalities which Sanad mentioned, like, okay, there's a system which filters out and does a screening based on keywords. Yeah, have those, but also have a valid reason of why do they exist in your resume.
Yeah.
And I think if you have that valid reason, the rest is going to be sorted on themselves.
Okay.
The process is just there to help you and not to challenge you.
Yeah.
To get you in that role, because those are the challenges which you'll be facing on a regular basis. You might be not 100% built for the job, but they just require that creamy layer in you on which they can build the entire foundation or the entire building per se.
Okay.
So yeah.
So I have kind of two fun questions which I want to ask. So the first question is to Sanad, which is how do you what is the one thing in someone's resume that puts you off the moment you see it? And to Shubham, it would be, how do you know if a person's lying on the resume?
So, frankly speaking, there are a couple of things that puts me off in a resume, because in the previous company that I was working in, like Analytics Vidya, I was also part of the interviewing panel where we shortlist resumes, and then we take interviews of people, based on what information they're providing in the resume. So it might be a bit subjective, but things like when you're trying to fill up space by writing about your education from class 10th onward, or you have won some competition, some singing competition, class 9.
Or you were a monitor inside class.
Yeah.
And so this is a fairly common point. Personally speaking, when I look at especially startups where I have experience of working in multiple startups and getting selected, I would say talking about your objective, it's not at all needed, because people usually write generic statements and they usually copy paste those statements. So you might find like 10 resumes with the same word by word, very same objective statement.
Yeah.
And frankly speaking, those objectives don't tell anything about you. If you're writing, I want to work on a big in an environment where I can professionally grow and I can contribute to the IT stack.
Yeah.
So,
I'm a passionate hard worker committed to the core. Strength.
Yeah. So,
and by the way, we all have done those things.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good, yeah.
So that's just a verbose and I would say MNC-like way of saying something which you already intend to do. So if you're applying for a job, that's what your intention is. So I think that is something that just takes up the space.
Yeah.
At the same time, I've seen people write about these online courses that they're doing. So hundreds and hundreds of online courses.
Yeah.
And if you ask them a question from the course or what did they learn in the course, basically, if you just dig deeper, they're not able to give an answer. And then the usual reply is like, you know what, sir, I did this course 1 year ago. I did not understand it fully. I did not complete it fully.
Achha.
So if there is something that you are not sure about, please don't write it in your resume because that's the only information the recruiter gets from you. That's the first point of contact that you do with the recruiter. So they will want to know more about what you have written. And another thing that's pretty interesting is when people write about projects that they do in online courses and some workshops, so these are very generic projects that groups of hundreds of people have done together.
Yeah.
Right? So they don't tell anything new or interesting or unique about you, what your skill sets are.
Yeah.
So usually you have to, as Shubham mentioned, when I'm looking at a resume to shortlist someone, you might have one project that's really that you have been passionate about, and it can even be a technically, it needn't be a complex project. It can be a entry-level project in terms of technical acumen that's required for the project. But if it's a unique project, if it's a new idea that you have thought of, I think that's what impresses the interviewer much more than doing a really hard project but taking it off from a course or from some training.
Yeah.
Like just to give an example of Hackerrank, like I'm not promoting Hackerrank in any way. I don't work there right now.
Yeah, guys, they're sponsoring this video. Please like, share, subscribe to Hackerrank.
So the story was I had been applying to Hackerrank every year of my college. So first year, no reply. Second year, no reply. Third year, I get a reply for an interview, and after I get selected. So once I'm in Hackerrank, the first question I ask so the CTO personally hired all the interns. So I asked the CTO, what was one thing that you liked about me or that just stood out? So turns out, when I was learning basics of HTML, CSS in my first year, I just created this very basic app where you can just move your mouse around in the screen. There's a white canvas, and wherever you move the mouse, you just get a straight line. And then there are small things that you can do with the line. So you can change the color of the line, the thickness. You can have an eraser. So basically, that was my first ever project that I did after learning for 3 days how to code websites, just to have a better understanding of making websites. Turns out that was the project that impressed him the most. And the reason for that was two reasons. First, it was out in the real world because it was deployed. So he really liked that fact that it was not in my laptop. It was actually out there. Anyone can, just go and play with it. Second thing what he liked was the ability to think an idea of your own and just taking whatever you have learned and just trying to create a basic product with it. So it's not a very complex application. It's not at all something that's very impressive. But for some reason, that's what hit him. And now that I've seen people's resumes, that's the first question I ask. When I see all of this verbose things about the online courses, the fake certificates, and things like, the first question I ask them is like, what's that one project that you have done that you're really passionate about, and it was your own idea.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so the question where you said like,
I want to put a disclaimer here. So, for everybody listening into the podcast, I would like to say that this podcast is for normal people, not like Sanad, who applies for Hackerrank in first year. Who does that? People are like, I want to go. People are like, I want to play football, I want to play hockey, I want to play tennis. He's like, I'll play Hackerrank.
Okay. Most girls can apply at what was that football club, bro? In Bengal United.
Mohan Bagan.
Mohan Bagan, yeah.
Mohan Bagan. Okay.
Yeah. Bro, everyone is invited. Just be, Instagram, do they make resumes?
Sorry, what? Hello?
Do they make resumes for football?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Let's not judge them, That's really bad.
मैं FIFA नहीं खेलता हूँ. 2019 I don't play. So I don't know.
So just to correct on it, I would say that this talk is not about resume building, but more about profile building.
Yeah. That should be the correct title of the talk.
So if you're a footballer, you'll have that portfolio of yours, the kind of matches you have played in, the kind of performance you have done. I think that's what they check in the IPL also when they're trying to...
Exactly. They do all their analysis on how did they do in their local Ranji season, how did they do in other leagues which went local, and even international matches. So it's pretty much profile building, be it in tech, be it in management, be it in sports.
Yeah. Okay.
So Sanad applied for Hackerrank very much in the first year.
Yeah.
I think a cricket player who's very passionate about that game should going ahead. Let's apply for IPL. What are the things I need to do for getting selected in IPL? It would sound very crazy if he talks to other peers in his group at that time.
Exactly.
But the day he gets in IPL, everybody would be like, oh, that guy applied itself in the first year. So that is how the story goes.
Yeah.
So, just to give a context of why I've been applying to places like Google in the first year, okay? But
very good.
So it was coming from a place of like when I got into NI, the first thing that I told myself was because I could not get into IIT, so I will not let a college define me. I would rather define my college. So just the tag of the college, if an IITian can, go to US for a research internship, why can't I? So that's like a personal way that I've thought about my career so far, is always try to, not be afraid of being overly ambitious, but putting in the required hard work. That's also important. You're being ambitious, you'll try 100 things, you'll fail at 105 things, but you have to put in the necessary hard work. Eventually, you reach a point where things like your college name, your city, or your educational background, these things, or your GPA, they don't define you anymore. You define yourself. So I think that's how I usually think about it.
And adding to that fact as well, when it came to campus placement back in college, all of us were preparing for campus recruitments with all heart and soul. Like 3 years we studied tech, and last moment we were doing aptitude. So that is how the redundant.
Oh my God, yeah. That's so true, man. Oh God, it hurts so much, but it's so.
So this guy, Sanad, was like, okay, this process is not much suited to me. Also, he was, very few people just read JDs of which companies are coming to the campus and what, jobs they are providing and what is the description of that particular job.
Yeah.
So as per, what Sanad wanted to do at the time, he looked up to all those JDs and like, okay, this is something not of, my particular path. So he was not my particular profile, the profile which I want to work on. So he took another path, took a really, I would say, calculated risk as of today. That time it was a risk and risk only. So he didn't sit for campus placement. He sat for, startups where he was finding for, job descriptions or skills which could satisfy the learnings which he wanted to do, the things he wanted to pursue from the first year itself. So I won't suggest anyone to take that step. But if you're really knowing that this is where you want to end up, I mean really, really knowing, and that feeling you will know that this is where you want to know. Just don't do it for some other person did it, but do for the purpose you want to do. And if it cracks and hits, you will be having a story, just about same as Sanad, or may God bless, even better.
I mean, but see, just to counter that, I mean, Sanag is, giving Batman dialogue. It's not who I am. It's the work that defines me and all that. But I just want to ask you, everyone's not like Sanag. I mean, there are normal people like me who कि हाँ थर्ड ईयर तक वी हैव स्टडीड एवरीथिंग फिर एप्टीट्यूड करना है मुझे so people judge you by a number. I mean, that's another thing. So I just want to get this question is directed to Shubham, that
Yeah.
oh yeah, sorry, that the pressure is very high today with COVID and with the kind of situation which is around us today. Even non-technical people, non-coders are supposed to learn coding. For example, if you're a mechanical engineer and you go into a field, they'll ask you to learn Hadoop or DevOps or that kind of things. So a person who does not know coding is going to be a problem. So जो भी whatever resume you have built until third year, you may have gone to national level championships in racing. You may have been the best design engineer in Force Ixvaco or something. But the company is asking for another profile because that's the only profile available today. And you have come up across a lot of juniors who come to you first year में मेरे को placement चाहिए Google में क्या करूँ? Okay, not referring to Sanad, but just saying. So how do you deal with the pressure of profile building? Rightly, as Sanad put it, how do you deal with that? What do you do so that your profile is built such that you do what you love and you get the job you like?
All right. So first of all, let me start with the word which you use, non-technical. If you find the dictionary and try to search this word, no, it doesn't exist. Okay. There's always something outside the domain of technology as well, which can pretty much, in good amalgamation, mix with, tech and work out very much well in favor. You do not have to be a technocrat to, get validation for yourself.
Yeah.
There's technology, yes, it is very powerful. It's going on a good path, and everyone should be knowing even a little bit of it, if not the whole of it. A pretty basic tech knowledge will always help. And Shankar, for saying that we are talking about profile building. We just now about summed up an example of what a cricketer can do for if he has to pursue that field. For even me, who is a guy who has been tech has fascinated me as much as the people impact which comes from management. And I've been trying to get the best of both worlds. So what I'm trying to do is talk with people with similar mentalities, and I have friends in my circle who tell me the power of tech there is, the power of policy making at government level there is. If I have to pursue them, I have to think of what are the paths which I should be doing, So, where you say that, I think, where did you say Google pehle aise kiya? What was actually you wanted to pursue from the first year shift? Do you have an idea of that?
Yeah, okay. So to be very, very honest, I wanted to make Iron Man ka suit.
That was a good.
I think I've read a bit about you before coming for this podcast. I went to your LinkedIn profile. I went for even the article which you wrote on Manas. You had been a very good, pretty good ad writer. Also, you've been doing this podcast show. And I've already told you that these are the initiatives which many lot of people think are very obvious and should not be done, are the people who make a difference and do these things. Like Sanad said, he learned HTML and all and began doing some pretty basic development. But at that point of time, it was very basic for anyone who wanted to do it. But nobody did it. He did it. When I also got to know about HTML, CSS, what I did was I developed a website so that other people can share notes, a forum kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Anybody could have done it. Anybody has the skill of HTML. It's really basic, but nobody did it. So the most obvious thing there is, if you just have the skills to support it, and do not, think about the level of the skill you have. Just have the purpose to serve. Like, for example, HTML, CSS. Today, if you ask anyone, you're like, aata hai. But what did you do with these things? Not a lot of people will tell you,
Correct.
What they did with it.
Correct.
Okay. So, for example, this is the example which I took. You did this podcast, and also you did do book reviews, which I've heard quite many. So these are very basic things. People with others, best of the soft skills, could have done it, but they didn't do. They served it for something else. So the major part of profile building is the skills you have, good, great. What did you do with it? So those things will come with time. The best of skills will come with time, but you got to start doing things for whatever it be. So it's just not what Sanad did, what Shubham did. It can be anybody. It can be your story. You just need to, be confident about what you're doing, and yes, seek validation from the circle of friends which you have around. That am I doing it right? What more should I add? But first thing first, you should have a very clear purpose of what you want to do. Okay, if it's management, okay, what things in management you want to do? What things you want to do at the end of it? What purpose should it serve? Okay, if I'm developing a web application, should I just develop it for putting it in my resume, or should it even serve a purpose?
Yeah.
Should it at least interest me while I'm doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Those very small things, no, Shiv, go a long run, serve a longer purpose, serve a better story at the end. I think I might not have answered the whole sum of the question, but what I want to tell you is nobody is wrong until they actually do something about it. Okay.
Yeah. It's okay, because we are engineers. It doesn't matter if the answer is correct or not. The answer has to be 5 pages long. How does it matter? So
just to try to answer the question that you initially asked about the people, especially the juniors who are having this pressure.
Yeah.
So I have personally seen them and realized this by the time we graduated, that in India, apart from software industry, you do not have any proper industry for the different kind of engineering. So after you are graduate in, say, mechanical, so both of us know how hard the mechanical syllabus is on campus, right? They study a lot, they work hard a lot, but at the end of the day, they have to learn basics of coding, C++ and all, and sit for coding companies, because that's one of the things about the Indian industry, because I think the IT industry is the only industry that has plenty of jobs right now, and that's something that has been there irrespective of the COVID situation. But what I would say to those people who are worried that they are from a mechanical background and they have really good mechanical skills on the resume, but they might not have C++ skills and things like that. So most of the time the recruiter knows this. If they have opened the recruitment process for the mechanical branch, they have a very different expectation than what they would have from a computer science student in terms of having the expertise. But at the same time, what they usually look for in a graduate right out of college is not depth of skill a lot of times. Maybe these companies like Google, Hackerrank, the big fours, they look for that kind of depth. But the kind of companies that come to the campus, they look for the question of potential, the kind of potential you bring to the table. So programming, it's not difficult for anyone who has basic structured thinking, logical thinking, and who is generally, good in communication, so he can work with teams easily. So when you say that you are working for Ishwaku, or you have organized this event for Onyx, or any entrepreneurship cell in your college, so you are actually communicating these skill sets indirectly. At the same time, you would like to have a good company of friends or people from, say, computer science branches who are really good at programming and things like that, and just try to learn with them and pick up the basic hard skills. But most of the times when you're sitting in the interview, at least in campus placement, the reason it's easy to get selected in campus placements without having good amount of knowledge in depth is because they don't expect you usually to have knowledge in that great of a depth. So I just want to clarify here. When I say depth of knowledge, I don't mean that you should not be really good and well versed with the knowledge of, say, algorithms and data structures or circuit design. What I say is, you don't necessarily have to have developed a end-to-end software and published it online, or you have an Android app on the App Store that has like 10,000 users. That's not the expectation at all. The expectation is whatever you have studied and whatever opportunities you have come across in the 4 years of your college, how you have taken advantage of those opportunities and what skill sets you bring to the table. So usually you would see that in these interviews, it's more a question of judging the potential of the candidate. Because if you look at companies like Infosys, TCS, or even SAP, almost all companies train you for 6 months. This is the part where they teach you programming and Java and those skills. Before that, you just want to know how good are you in your quantitative analysis, how good you are in your logical thinking, how good are you in communication, working with teams, leadership, things like that. So I think for juniors, it's a very hard time, no doubt about it. But you have to keep on working on yourself, keep on looking for opportunities. The industry might shift. As I know personally right now, hiring has been frozen in almost all big and small companies. So I think it might be there for the next couple of months also. So this is going to be a challenging time for you, but you don't have to think when you're looking for placement that you're competing with a computer science student. If the company has opened a recruitment process for both a mechanical student and a computer science student, they usually have different expectations.
Okay.
So I hope that has answered the other part of your question. I think Shubham answered the first part very well.
So you guys have basically divided the answer. Very nice.
Yeah, thank you.
And I have to evaluate now. Great. Okay. So, just to wrap up this very, very interesting discussion, I want to ask both of you a question which has been in my mind for the past 2-3 years. When you come into first year of engineering, you are expected to be good in a specific skill, right? Then Sanad just explained that your skill sets change over time and for good reason. So, over the years, we have seen a lot of polymaths. Leonardo da Vinci, there was Steve Jobs, who was good in the creative field as well as the technical. I mean, not very good, but he had a bit of knowledge. So as an industry, I'll direct this question to Shubham and then we go to Sanad. As an industry, are we encouraging, specialization in just one skill set instead of being a whole-round personality? I mean, isn't it important to have a creative side, a management side, along with being good in tech?
Okay, so I'll answer that with an idea. Just hold on with what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you're building a company, what kind of people will you hire? You won't hire just the technocrats.
Yeah.
You would also hire people who are good in tech, but as well good in coordinating with people. Okay. And the other way around, if someone is good in management, would also want them to have basic skills of technology. You cannot ignore either of it. So yes, a perfect idealistic answer would go like an all-round developed guy, all right, who knows things about people and also knows things about tech. It's just about the journey. How have you made it to it? Okay. So the thing which you said about what kind of, profile should you be building, be it tech. For example, I'll just take my example here. If it comes to me, I'll think of, does it interest me? If I build this thing, would it actually make an impact? Would it interest me if I have to do it for next 3-4 years or 5 years? If it was yes, okay, I would firstly start learning it. Okay, and if it keeps the interest going, if it keeps making me think about the problems I can solve, I think I'll pursue it. And after that, what I'll do is ask the peers in my circle that how do I, do it much better? What more things should I study? And if it comes to, communication skills or, other stuff, I have people as well in my circle who tell me, have you heard this speech or have you, read this particular article? Yeah. Those things build up for the things which I eventually want to do. Eventually making an impact. It could be just through people, it could be through an application as well.
Okay.
So, and wholesome, yes, it helps anybody. And the first thing which came to my mind when you asked me that question was, what kind of person would I hire in my company if I have a company ever after? So, the first thing first, I think we go to the very first question where it said was, you have few skills, but what did you do with those skills? How did you grow up on them? Okay. So it's pretty much that. I think Sanad would elaborate on that.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you would have already noticed a pattern in Shubham's talk, his answers in the last couple of answers, that pattern is, it really it really is important to have a good peer group in college. So I think I just wanted to say this explicitly for all the juniors who are listening to this. So always have a good peer group, because as they say that tell me the 5 people you hang out with and you're the average of their personality. So when you're having this kind of peer group, make sure that you hang out with all kinds of people. So people who are really good in tech, people who are really good in management. So this just complements your lack of experience in those fields. So suppose I'm really good in tech, but I'll hang out with people who are really good in, say, entrepreneurship and things like that, and I'll have discussions with them, because that's ultimately what you see in a college, right? A college is at least sadly in India we look for a college in terms of the kind of placement and package we get, but usually when you apply for a master's application abroad, you usually look at the college. If a college has a good ranking, that's not just because of the kind of companies I have from them, but it's also because of the kind of peers you will get in that college. So if you are going to Harvard or Stanford, your peer group will be of that high quality. So I think this is something I just wanted to say explicitly for all the juniors listening to this. Now, coming to answer your question again, and what I'm trying to do in this talk is try to give another point of view from Shubham's point of view, just to bring together multiple point of views.
Yeah.
So one thing that I've realized is when you go to places like startups, small companies who are starting out, who have ambitious plans, people usually look for candidates who have well-rounded personality. So well-rounded doesn't mean you should be good in everything, but what it means is you're good in one thing, but you have certain other skill sets. So I would say jack of all trades, but master of one. So
that's nice. Okay.
Yeah. So for example, when I was in these startups like YourStory, Analytics Vidya, Hackerrank, I was the tech guy. At the same time, I was doing community building efforts. I was doing community building efforts for Analytics Vidya. I went to Chennai to ignite the analytics community there, meetups on the meetups.com platform, and then organizing webinars, things like that. So startups require people who have skill sets beyond a certain particular domain, because it's a small company, there are 7-8 people, so you want people who are complementary. So and startup is at the same time, conversely speaking, startup is a good place for someone who feels that they might be really inclined towards one thing, but they also don't want to lose other aspects of the personality. Yeah. Suppose I'm a really good tech guy, but at the same time, I love talking to people. I love doing things where I can teach people, where I can interact with people, where I can explain technical concepts in a simple way, where I can lead certain initiatives, things like that. So basically, the kind of work that I was doing in NASB, or someone might be doing in Onyx. This is the general profile that a startup looks at, and even if you're not good at other things, you're only good at one thing. For example, you're just this geeky tech guy. Once you join a startup, they make sure that you're just not bad. Yeah. So that's one good thing. When you go to MNCs, especially through campus placement, so this is again an opinionated answer. I think a lot of different people will tell you different things, but usually the HR round that happens to see your overall personality and other aspects of your personality, it's usually not that of a deciding factor of your hiring than your core technical skill set. So suppose if you're sitting for a management company from say IIM Bangalore, your management skills matter a lot, much more than what website you have made. At the same time, if you're sitting for a tech company like Google, your algorithmic and data structure skills matter a lot. And also it depends upon the kind of role you are going to work on. So if it's a core tech role, obviously they will prefer specialists, people who have developed that kind of skill set over the years, like you have these profiles and projects and maybe some research paper. But usually I've seen this trend that startups prefer people who are not limited by a single personality trait. They love to have people who can also contribute. So if you're in a startup, they'll also discuss the strategy with you. Even if you're an intern, you will get to have a say in the strategy because you might have brought certain other opinion or perspective to the discussion, right? So that's how the general pattern that I've seen between a startup and an MNC. But yeah, I think
yeah, that's where I would like to jump in and say for, MNCs, as Sanad was talking about, when you go in startup, even if you're a tech geek guy, they expect you to, connect with people and express your ideas. In MNCs, in my very personal example, the MNC which I chose, I would say, Deloitte was my personal dream company. For a lot, it was just another, company. But I chose it. So yeah, I think one thing I would explicitly say is also choose your recruiters. Who is recruiting you? Okay, they're gonna, define very much the path you'll be taking from there on. So personally, I really wanted to be in Deloitte. I wanted to meet people who are doing management, who are, are good in soft skills and in fact better than me. So that I can learn from them what things I am lacking. So for today, as of today's situation, it goes like this, that in this particular company where I'm working, in the particular project where I am contributing, I have to contribute technically as well, even if I'm not so proficient at it, but that is a requirement which I have to deliver as well, going along with the management things which I am already interested in. So these things go hand in hand. I think every other company from the things which even Sanad is saying, people are asking just not how many, just the tech skills which you have, which if you have, good, but also how could you use those very skills to create a good picture for the startup, for the company. So they really want you there, that if Sanad is, if someday he delivers a conversation with anyone, let's even take this, people are going to think, okay, he represents this organization as well, and his words going to define of what kind of organization he is working in. Yeah. So organizations take these things by now today's standards seriously. So yes, these things very much matter. These things very much define. And yes, again, I'm going to repeat that, Shiv, you should also not be only, going after a company or anything by the, majority, if a majority is following that particular skill or that particular company, don't go bad at. Yeah, or package. Oh, that thing. So yeah, buy that thing. Don't just follow the majority, but does it serve you, man? Does it serve the skill which you want to pursue? It might end up in a risk. Okay. It might also end up in something, people might criticize you for, but if it really, in the long run helps you, choose your recruiter.
Okay.
Choose the company, choose the next company which you want to be in and work your ass off.
Okay.
But first you have to decide which that company going to be.
Yeah, which your ass should be in which company. I think that's important.
Yeah, you should decide that. Even it sounds very idealistic, very, okay, bahut zyada bol raha hai. But at the end of 10 years, I've heard experienced people saying, yaar, pehle sochna tha ye.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've heard people saying that यार अब तो ऐसा लगता है कि यार बस पैसे के लिए काम कर रहे हैं. And these are some of the smartest people that I know from campus, by the way. They have a lot more potential. But yeah.
Okay.
I mean, whole round development does help. You cannot ignore tech. You cannot ignore management. And you cannot go solely as a management guy. You are being foolish. And also, you're being foolish if you think tech is going to serve you all in all.
Yes.
So both should go hand in hand. I think a lot of times, Sanad and me had agreements on this very particular topic, on going on variety of things which we cover, and we are very passionate about these things. So those are the conversation it goes like, and we have agreed upon this thing. It has to go hand in hand. It cannot be, singularly one existing without the other. So yeah.
So
that's the reality.
I think we can conclude this debate by saying two things. Two things I've understood. Number one is whatever skills you have, make sure you put it to use. I think that's important. The second thing is, I hope all the juniors who are listening to this merge NISB and Onyx, tech plus management, techno management. I think that's the best thing which can be done. crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would be crazy. That would be awesome. So thanks, guys, for coming on. Wow, what a crazy discussion it's been. I think for me, I have concluded. I have made some conclusions from the discussion. I think someone else who's listening to this will make different conclusions. So it's
Right.
not correct to say कि नहीं यही सही है. That's not correct, I feel. So yeah, I think thanks, guys. It's been a great discussion, really enlightening. And I think we'll conclude this episode here. Until then, be Atmanirbhar, stay safe, and goodbye.
Goodbye, man. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.